Welcome to the Dash Arts podcast, seeing the world through an artistic lens. I'm Josephine Burton.
And I'm Rachael Head.
And this is our farewell to 2022 brief podcast.
Just to wrap up the year, we've done an awful lot at Dash and made a lot of work about it.
Yeah, I think this has probably been the busiest year in our existence. I mean, having three productions running over the course of the year, it's just huge. Plus all the podcast and all the community programming in the UK and abroad. I think it's been very productive.
I mean, it certainly has. Even the small amount of productions that I've been involved with, and you've been across literally all of them.
Yes, but so have you. Thinking about it, I mean, Rachael, and wearing different hats, not just documenting them through the podcast. I mean, we were privileged to have you as our production manager in Middlemarch and and managing all the ops and stage managing Babyn Yar. So it's been really lovely to have you as part of our world over this year.
Thank you. You're right. It has probably been the year that I've been the most involved with all the different aspects of Dash's work. Tell me a little bit about what's been your favourite moments this year.
There have been so many. I mean, I'm so to have created three such different shows, to have made the Middlemarch and really got to know Coventry and work with all those community members and live up in Coventry and spend time in the university at Warwick, and to develop that show on the streets was just totally brilliant. I loved kind of wandering around the streets of Coventry beneath the cathedral and bumping into audience members who were also part of our kind of journey around the streets. That was amazing. Yeah. That was a highlight. It was a constant highlight being in the rehearsal room and then on stage with Dido's Bar, and being constantly reminded that this was a show that had happened from a one brief encounter in Helsinki 5 years ago. And now there were almost 100 people in different capacities working and supporting and developing and making and creating this dream. That was just a constant thrill, and to really be part of its evolution from those beginnings to the end was just unbelievable. And then I think Babyn Yar really also, just having developed it last year and seen the Ukrainian show kind of take steps through the course of the year, and how politics and war and the Russian war in Ukraine, and seeing that impact on the work and our audience's understanding of Ukraine change has been really interesting. What's happened over the course of the year, the profile, the awareness of Ukraine and Ukraine's current politics have impacted on our show. And so it has, the audiences are just fascinated. We did it in Germany a couple of weeks ago, and people were really, really interested and stayed for the post-show Q&A and really wanted to be part of understanding better, I think, what it is to be Ukrainian today.
Everybody has stayed. We've done a Q&A. We only didn't do a Q&A once, and people were like, can we ask questions? Can we talk? So many more people have stayed than you normally see in theatre Q&As, I've worked on so many shows in the past 6-7 years, and it's will stay there with me as one of the most special things I've ever been a part of.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you what your highlights are, Rachael. Sounds like Babyn Yar is.
Definitely Babyn Yar. I think Middlemarch, so many elements of it were fabulous and bonkers, and there was so much that went into making those worlds, those miniature sort of capsules of the 80s for the sets, and sort of then seeing people interact with them was really fun.
But I think, the other thing that I really want to take forward, and I suppose it's a kind of looking forward moment as well as a highlight of the year, is Maroof himself, our amazing, our amazing composer of Dido's Bar, and the journey that Maroof and I went on as artists, supporting each other, kind of holding each other's hands in our development of this new project together, which was very unusual, to create that kind of immersive world where breaking down all sorts of interesting fourth walls, where the audience are part of the audience are part of the bar and everybody else is. And what he did to create a full-length score, responding to Hattie's lyrics written in English, responding to all of our kind of collaborative processes to develop a score which was part sung and then part underscoring, but it was a full 2-hour plus score that he made for the first time, unbelievably beautifully, and just was so well received, that music, in so many different quarters. And to do that in the UK in his fifth language, I mean, I cannot sort of pay enough tributes to him. And in going forward, one of my real kind of hopes is that we find a way to bring the show to Finland in order to sort of celebrate him there, because he deserves to be acknowledged and celebrated for that extraordinary achievement.
Yeah, you're so right. An extraordinary person and so full of joy for what he's creating. And it's been a real joy to sort of get to know him this year as well.
Yeah, it really does. And it's not just Maruf and I, it's also with everybody. And it's not just the creatives. I think the extraordinary highlight for me, I think also as well, I think of all of them has been the amount of amazing people we've worked with this year, the production crews, the actors, the musicians, and all our partners. I mean, the partners who have enabled us, who believed in the work in Coventry, in Leicester, in Manchester, in Oxford, in Portsmouth, and in the docks, in the Newham. I just, it's enormous. I'm enormously grateful to all of them for believing in it, for going in it, for investing so much time, and to the amazing Dash team who've just worked so seriously hard to bring everything off. So I think it's the people that have been the highlight of the year, the people and what they've put in to make the projects happen.
Definitely. What's been your favourite podcast episode this year?
Oh, I thought I was going to ask you that one. I really enjoyed the reflection one that we did at the beginning of the year, looking back on how the show had the Babyn Yar show in Kiev, hearing from Svetlana and Mariana and Yuri about what it was to bring Babyn Yar to Ukraine. Obviously, that all happened before the war, so it feels incredibly poignant. That's one of my highlights. And I love the protest song podcasts. I love the Internationale and hearing Billy Bragg talking about the podcast. And then, of course, the podcast that we've just released just now with the young people. And here it's just such a different approach to something. And just tribute to you and Christina, Rachael, for going on a different direction and bringing in other voices. So that's another highlight. What about you?
I actually really loved the recreating Middlemarch, the reflection, the last episode that I did, looking back on Middlemarch, with Amy and Ryan, was just so much fun. They were basically best friends by the end of that show, and sort of being they've got such an infectious energy. So doing that and looking back at that was really fun. And then I really loved the first, the whole series, but the first episode where I got to look at epic poetry and talk to all these experts and their individual, performers that are sort of re-looking at big epic poems and how they might be translated to the stage and told in sort of, story format over an hour or an hour and a half. And that's sort of the whole series on why we tell, where the stories that we tell come from. And I think it ties in so well with what Dash does. So, big question then, what is Dash looking towards for 2023?
Quite a few things are under wraps, but we're kicking off in January with Crimea 5 a.m, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a challenging and powerful piece of writing to bring to the stage. It is a text which draws together, it's a play which draws together interviews with the families of 10 political prisoners in Crimea. These are Crimean Tatars who are citizen journalists who are trying to report the abuses of human rights abuses that have been put onto the community by the Russian FSB who are occupying Crimea. And this journalist has gone to the families, spoken where possible to these prisoners, and built this world, this vision of a world which isn't just about what it is to be arrested at 5 o'clock in the morning, but it's also the lives of these women, how they met their husbands, how they built their communities, how they tapped into and understood their Crimean Tatar culture, which was almost completely destroyed when Stalin moved the Crimean Tatars, who were indigenous to Crimea. He moved them to Uzbekistan in 1944. And then they only came back to their kind of native land when Ukraine invited them back after their independence in 1991. So this sort of Tatar lifestyle was almost lost, and it was rekindled. And this play is sort of about that and being Crimean Tatar, and also what happened to the families when their men were all arrested. And we're bringing it to life on stage in the Kiln in January because there are 40 voices of people that were interviewed. So I couldn't quite bring our budgets to be able to cast 40 people. So we're working with some actors and journalists and activists who are going to share between them this amazing play, and we're bringing it to stage. And I'm looking forward to the process, to learn a lot more about Crimean Tatars. and to bring in some experts into the room and have that, be able to build that world that I feel Dash really aspires to do as much as possible, which is to kind of go deep into something and learn and then share that learning with audiences. So there'll be post-show chats, various other ways to build pictures of the world. And then the actual event is free, which is amazing. So we're doing it at the Kiln on the 16th of January, and come and hear this performance. It will be really moving and powerful. And it's also this tribute to the women of the community. It's largely women that we're casting. So that's the first thing. And then we are starting a new project called Public House, which is we've been a little bit, we've sort of been mentioning it over the last couple of months through the podcast, I think, thinking about Englishness. Albion is our new big series. And I know we're going to release a podcast in the new year about Albion. What is Albion? Like, is it even connected to Englishness in England? Is it something bigger than that? Well, I know we're going to answer all those questions because I'm looking forward to learning about it. But certainly, we are going to create a project which reflects on English identity and who we are today. And we're going to start that by running a series of workshops around the country with communities, where we are bringing some amazing facilitators and educators in to help us work out what makes a good speech and why. And then with these people with these communities, look at things that they want to change and make better in their communities, and give them the tools and provide them with the tools and the ways to speak out and sort of push for change locally and learn from them. I'm really excited to learn what people want to change in their communities. And I hope from that to create a future production which will be inspired by the thoughts, reflections and activism of the communities and the people in the communities that we meet around the country.
Amazing. Where are you going?
We are going to Coventry, Birmingham, Norwich, Portsmouth, Manchester and Newham. So
I really put you on the spot there.
Yeah, we did, but I hope that's the list. I'm pretty sure that's the list.
Yeah,
it has been an amazing year, and we've learned so much. We've done so much. We've made so many connections and built some kind of beautiful creative projects. That amazing exhilaration has been a little bit tempered by the news that we've just heard that Dash Arts is no longer going to be regularly funded by the Arts Council. We have an address in London, although our work is increasingly not really in London. And went through a bit of a process trying to work out if we should move, but decided that because there's no one specific location for us to be based, that we probably should stay put. We've been told that we are no longer going to get kind of the amount of money that we get from the Arts Council every year because we're staying in London. And I understand that the politics of it all is very complicated, and it is really, vital that culture and the arts is leveled up around the country. I'm sad that in the process of it, though, we've been part of a leveling down. We are trying to work through a vision of Dash that will sustain and continue to create all these amazing projects and connections and work with so many amazing artists. I'm sure we shall, but it's a sad note to end on after such an amazing year, and to be pushed to go on a little journey to investigate and understand our future it's part of who we are, I suppose, constantly searching. And it's just I hope it's not going to rock the boat too much for us.
No, but it's been really hard, with all the work that everyone's put into all those applications and the relationships that you've been developing for so long. But it certainly doesn't seem to have slowed down the Dash program too much with all the work that you're doing next year.
Yeah, well, I think partly because we are wonderfully and unusually, we quite often get to the end of a massive program and go, oh wow, okay, now let's take a breath and then start planning. But partly because of COVID and partly because we were trying to change as an organisation, we'd already started a series of projects and started to receive funding and develop partnerships for those projects already beyond this year. So they have to happen because the will is there and the funding is there to make those projects happen. So that's great. And I guess I have to pay just an enormous tribute to my whole team who are coping with all of the change and the slight uncertainty about what that means for us all, and have pulled off the most amazing program of over the last year, and worked so hard to develop all the community links, to fundraise, to market, to build and hold us all together. So like, we are only as strong as the amazing team that enable us to do that. So just like a massive hooray and thanks to everybody at Dash, including our trustees, for this phenomenal year.
Well, looking forward to 2023, and the next podcast episode that will be out will be, as you say, one on Albion, which is sort of a continuation of our looking at storytelling and a crossover into the 2023 programme of looking at Englishness and what that means. I'm excited about it.
So am I. Can't wait to learn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Have a great break. And I'll be seeing some of the world of Dash back in January for Crimea 5am.
Can't wait.